The big thing is, how do we stand out? How do we kind of get what we love about our product over to people?
Sales Ascenders, Chris here. Today is going to be a fun, action-packed day. We're talking about one of the most powerful things on planet Earth, and it's the spoken word. Words that sell are really powerful for all us entrepreneurs, business owners, and if you're catching the replay, you're in the right spot because we are talking about words that sell in specific platforms, the spoken word. We have today's spotlight is an author, is a speaker, renowned all over the world. He speaks all over the world to different cultures, to different people, and he knows how to connect. He is a pro. This is his zone of genius. I'm really excited to get into the conversation today with you, with this fellow Sales Ascender member. I got to show you a couple things just before we do. This is Brett. I want to show you Brett first. How's it going, Brett?
Really good. Great to be here.
Where are you calling in from today, Brett?
I live in Sydney, Australia, where right at the moment we are in the middle of summer, and we're about to have a long weekend that's hot and sunny and going to be all about the beach.
All about the beach. He is on the right side of the world this time of year, and he's getting up in the fives to come hang out with us. It's, what is it, 5:30, 5:40 over there?
It's about 5:30 in the morning over here. So, it's the sun will be up soon, and but I'm really, really delighted to be here with you guys.
Life has taught me something. Find the people that get up before the sun rises. Usually they're going to have some smart things to say. Hey, just before we get into it, I just wanted to show you guys his profile real quick. He's speaking in front of large audiences. This is pre-COVID. He's also been doing virtual presentations as well. We're going to get into that in a second. So if you're just seeing this or just tuning in, you're in the right spot. I see more and more people coming on. Please comment your thoughts. Let us know what you think about speaking. Are you doing it? Are you not doing it? And why? Are you scared of it? I know public speaking is the number one fear, even for us leaders and business owners. Leveraging it is a whole other conversation that we're having today. So stay tuned with us. But you can see that he's the creator and founder of the $1 Million Author. He has some excellent strategies for us today and some really powerful stories. Another thing I wanted to share is some of the books that he's already written. Creating a winning team, maintaining a winning team, playing above the line, staying above the line. Very powerful books that he's written, and we'll be focusing on $1 Million Author mindset. And he's brought a really insanely valuable free give today, just like a true sales ascender. All sales ascenders leading with value. I didn't want to skip over this. Anything else I missed here, Brett, you'd like to add?
No, that's great. One of the things I want to tell people and kind of inspire you about is my next book, which is due out really soon, is called The 4-Hour Author. And the thing about The 4-Hour Author is that it teaches you how to create these books in a completely new way that is not as intimidating as writing a book is for so many people. So if you friend me and jump on and connect, we've got another book due out fairly soon.
If anyone listening to this is exactly the person that Brett just described, and you've had those thoughts, I can relate, and I can say that I was and still partially am that exact person. In fact, I was recently, so Brett, we're just getting to know each other, prior to this conversation, and we will further here, was featured in a book actually last year, technically for the first time. It's just a chapter, but going through the process, I'm personally interested to ask you a bunch of questions because it is an experience. It is really intimidating, but the power of spoken word and this tool, if you're a business owner and leader, it's a game changer. It's a non-negotiable thing to lean into rather than run away from. And I'm hoping you can ease that pain for me and all sales ascenders today. To start this off, let's get into how you've personally approached it and how it's personally impacted your life. So is writing and speaking something that you knew you would always do?
Actually, it's really interesting because it's still almost uncomfortable to hear people describe me as an author because I just don't really consider myself a writer. I started off the first 20 or so years of my life as a photographer and a film director, and I worked in the advertising industry doing all that sort of stuff. And then I've transitioned over to running a coaching company, business coaching company. And for all of us salespeople, anyone who is, putting their ideas out in the world or trying to persuade someone that the product that we have is the right product for their problem, the big thing is, how do we stand out? How do we kind of get what we love about our product over to people in a way that's going to connect to them? And I'll tell you a few stories around that. But really, what I found is that writing a book and getting your ideas into a book format is the most powerful way to persuade people and to open doors that weren't previously opened. And so it turns out I'm quite good at speaking, and I think that's probably something that most salespeople would say they have the gift of speaking to people. And really, all a book is translating what your words, your thoughts, your ideas into a book form. And this is what the 4-hour author process is all about, which I'll talk about later. But I guess the idea that you can just speak and we'll create a book for you is really, really appealing to a lot of salespeople who love talking, who love connecting with people, who love solving problems, but the rest of it is a bit weird. And so, nowadays, I guess
just for a second, Rhett, because it does get weird. It does get
totally
weird. Weird meaning like the task list goes on overload and you're like, oh, that's a perfect thing that I'm going to do next year. But I know for myself, the thing that you're mentioning, I'm totally an audiobook guy. If you tell me I just need to go, all I need to do is go walk outside, go for my walk, and I, even this,
turn the audiobook on.
Turn the audiobook on, or I'm like working through ideas or crafting a pitch or something, and I just need to dump it on there and then hand that over. That actually makes it from impossible to possible.
Right.
Personally. Yeah.
And the thing that I think salespeople are better at than anybody else is this: good salespeople understand persuasion. And what I mean by persuasion is putting together a story, putting together an argument, putting together a set of facts which let people know that this thing that we sell is the right fit for that particular customer. And whether that's a product, whether that's a service, every person who is in sales is adept at understanding their customer and adept at explaining how their thing solves that problem. That makes you a writer. It's just we now have the technology to, to talk it out instead of writing it out. Because whenever I think of a writer, I think of that great movie Love Actually, and that character who goes down to a little house in Spain and sits in a barn and taps away at his typewriter. That's kind of the vision I have of a writer. And to be honest, technology means that the reality of it is as far in the opposite direction as you can be from that. You no longer need to lock yourself up in a room somewhere for 6 months on end to write a book.
So was that you? Is that how you transitioned into the writing process and being an author yourself?
So the first book I wrote was in my wedding photography business. What we found was brides and grooms would come in, and if you've ever been through the process of booking a wedding photographer, what you know is how much you don't know. You come in and you're like, I don't know what to ask. I'm not a professional photographer. I'm like, how much for that and how much for that? And these poor brides and grooms would come in without any idea. On the other hand, I had a commercial side of my photography business where I was working with ad agencies and international clients. Now, they knew exactly what to ask. So I saw this huge difference between the way a professional buys photography and the way our poor brides and grooms do. So I thought, I've got to educate them, because a better educated customer is going to be a better customer. And if I could teach them to see the photography the way a professional would, they would clearly be able to see the difference between what we do and what others do. And so I wrote a book literally educating brides and grooms about how to buy photography, and it was insanely successful. And now when I say insanely successful, it's not on the New York Times bestseller, but it made me a lot of money, because instead of putting ads in magazines with pretty pictures of brides and grooms, we offered a free book. And so many people signed up, got the free book, they read the book, and of course they said, "Oh, you guys shoot as well, don't you?" And we're like, "Yeah, come on in." And it sort of took my, I credit that with taking my conversion rate from about 20%, which was all right, up to 80%. What that meant was
20% up to 80%.
What that means is my sales staff were not wasting time on a lot of people that were shopping. What it meant was they already knew, because they read the book, they understood who we were, they saw the images, but they also understood the approach that we have. And they just came in, and really what they tended to do was say, "Here's the wedding we'd like. You tell us how you think you should do it," which is a really cool way to sell, because it's just solving problems for them.
And great sales is simply solving problems.
Yeah.
That's a great punchline on top of the 20 to 80%. As the sales, guy, I'm like, "What'd you say?"
Yeah.
That's a
and my ad spend.
That's a fraction of outreach I needed. That's a fraction of ad spend. Like,
and that's happened over and over again, right? The ad spend, it costs so much less money to actually get those leads in the first place. You stand out better. And so as I transitioned into my business coaching practice, I think business coaching is very much shares that same thing of how do you stand out from all the other business coaches? How do you attract the right customers for you? And I found it very difficult to stand out until I wrote a book. And so this was probably this is one of those books that you mentioned, Playing Above the Line. My area of specialty in coaching is leadership and team culture development. I'm a sports coach, and I bring the sports coach theology over into business, and that really makes sense, particularly to a lot of Australians, because we're just mad for sport. And so suddenly what happened was I went from that sense of, "Oh, please, can I talk to you about my coaching services?" And sort of feeling people like, "Oh, no, coaches are a dime a dozen. Why would I talk to you over anyone else?" Suddenly, people were calling me and say, "Hey, we've just read your book. Could you come and speak at our, to our business? Could you come and present? Could we buy 20 copies of your book to give to our employees?"
Let's pause there just for a second, because that's really, really powerful. Anyone listening here, and I see another wave of people just came in. Hey, if you're just tuning in, we are talking about the spoken word, about books, about conversion rates, increasing sales. If that's for you, you're in the right place. Brett just shared that he went from, I'm just curious if anyone else listening right now, any fellow sales centers relate to this. I went from, "Hey, can we talk about my new business, my service? Hey, will you be a customer? Hey, can I beg you for something? Hey, can I ask something?" And was able to reverse that with spoken word, with being an author, putting these thoughts on paper and sharing it as a free lead magnet, essentially, in some environments, sharing it as a nurture tool. And that changed the conversation dynamic. One, it changed the framework, the authority framework. And two, it was educating. And so it shortened the sales cycle. You see the quote there. You went from 20% to 80%. Coming back to you on this topic, having this conversation, Brett, I got to ask, you said sport. You're not, is cricket, rugby? Which one are we talking about? We
know it as soccer. Most of the rest of the world know it as football. Is my particular, but that's I love that because of the team aspect of it. I played it all. I surf, I windsurf, I kite surf, I sail. Anything to do with the water, I'm involved. I played
From another
rugby.
mother. I love the ocean.
Yeah, right. So I've actually just started building my own surfboards, and I'm really enjoying that. So
That's awesome. We talking shortboard, longboard? Where are we going?
I just
All
built a wooden shortboard, and I've got a half finished longboard down the back at the moment. So that's
You're like,
when I'm not in front of a computer, I like to just go down and build stuff. So surfboards are the latest thing.
Please read. Like, I haven't met an Aussie that I haven't liked yet. I'm sure there's some sour apples over there. But like most, like you guys, like I've been to Australia once for a couple of weeks, had a great experience, Sydney area, went skydiving in Wollongong, had a great experience. Here's the thing, listen to how cool Brett is. When we were talking earlier, like I'm a musician. I was like, this guy, you're just a talented guy. There's so many. Please reach out to Brett. Number one, everyone listening. Number two, the Sales Ascenders Inner Circle. There are so many cool people. Like we are personally reaching out to everyone. Like there's so much talent and so many interesting people doing awesome, amazing things, just like Brett. And Brett, we're gonna hit on the music stuff a little bit because that one you mentioned earlier, I was like, I'm asking more questions there. So this all said, you're building surfboards, doing anything sport. You call it soccer, doing a bunch. All these experiences have helped with working with people.
Yeah.
In the business context, it's leading teams. And it's developing as people, and this led you down a path of writing books and connecting with more people.
Yeah, and I think the most amazing experience I had when it came to books was that as a business coach, as a running a business, I want to work with great clients. I want to work with clients that they kind of say, look, you're the expert. You just tell us what we need. For me, I think that's any sort of salesperson's ideal. Whereas so often as a salesperson, you've got clients who are saying, no, I don't want that, or no, I don't want that, or I don't understand why I need that. When I put out this book here, I got this great phone call one day, and it started off with, hey, is that Brett Odgers, the author? And like straight away, I'm like, okay, this is going to be interesting. It was a state manager of one of our major banks, one of the top two banks in Australia. And she said, look, I've just read your book. I've read the first chapter of your book. Our bank needs to know what you teach. Would you consider running a business banking summit for us? Now, of course, as a salesperson, I haven't had to do anything. I've just had to exist. And she said, would you come and run our business banking summit? And of course, that's a lucrative job. That's a really cool job. But the really great aspect of it was that their approach was to say, here's the problem we have. Your book has got all of the ideas in there, but you just tell us how you want to run the business banking summit. And so they're sort of just coming to you as an expert. It takes you from being a salesperson to a whole nother level. You use the word authority. And for me, that's what that did. Like if I'd knocked on the door of the bank and said, hi, I'm a business coach, I'd like to run your business banking summit, they'd laugh at you. You just wouldn't even get a look in. But when you've got a book like that and they see it and it gets to them, suddenly they come to you. Now, the really cool part of that story is that we mentioned I'm a musician, and in my speaking engagements, I bring music into it. So what I decided to do to kind of bring team building and leadership to life was that I wanted to turn this group of bankers into a giant band. So we had about 120 bankers in the room, and I brought in a full band of professional musicians. And in about an hour and a half, we taught them instruments to play, and we broke it up into about 8 or 10 different sections, and 120 of us performed a rock song with a live band with everybody performing. And it was just mind-blowing. They had a whole lot of fun, but they also said to me after, I've never understood team culture better than I do now. And And it was really just me saying, hey, I think I should bring in a band and teach your guys to become musicians to demonstrate this. And they just went, okay, that sounds good. Cool, let's do it. So it's such a different perspective, and that's such a joy to work that way.
And let's hang here for a second. My brain's exploding. I'm all excited over here, Brett. So you're using this example, this analogy and real life exercise. Were most of those people musicians?
No, they're bankers. I mean, they're bank managers. They are not musicians. So
they're spreadsheet lovers.
Right, so they like their spreadsheets. That's what they like.
This is great. So one is, I love the fearlessness of creating an environment where people don't know a thing, and you're going to bring them. Hang with me. Everyone listening, catch this. I hope you caught what he just said and what he's doing. When you can take somebody out of their element, you bring them into a new environment. They're able to listen and receive simple principles in a powerful way. People say a picture's worth 1,000 words because it can express emotion. It can connect emotionally to some people almost instantly. The analogy that Brett just did is a very similar practice, and it's insanely powerful. Now check this out. Yeah. You're having fun. They're fully engaged. Yeah. You're not bullet point 7 says this and here's why, and none of that. Even people listening here, we're deep in story. We're talking about all kinds of fun and really powerful things that are specific to business. You're using the spoken word and your book as a tool. You're in this training, and they're like, I get it. And you haven't said anything yet, and they love you in the whole experience. How many other people? Oh, it's such a powerful thing.
Yeah, and I love what you said, that picture's worth 1,000 words. I think an experience is infinitely valuable, and so I'm always looking around. So my niche, if you like, is leadership and team culture, and I work with a bunch of clients, and they're building businesses, and they're building businesses by developing really high-level teams. So I'm always thinking, what do I do to take them to the next level? And just before COVID hit, I took all my clients away, and I thought, you know what? I'd really like them to have to learn to fly an aeroplane with their 2IC, so the manager and the 2IC. That freaked them out a little bit. So what I did was I hired a 737 flight simulator, and we put them in the flight simulator with each other and said, okay, time to land a plane. And they had to learn teamwork really, really fast.
Oh, my goodness. I love that even more. Did not see that coming.
Well, and I bring in actors to teach them improv. Because that's more leadership skills. I guess the thing is, the lesson here is that a book feels kind of like, there's a whole bunch of theory in there and a whole bunch of ideas. But what's been really fun is that when you're positioned as an authority in an area, and the books certainly do that, people just say, okay, what's next? What do you want to do? How do you want to teach me? Where do you want to take me? So for my particular clients, whether that's turning them into a band or whether that's putting them in a flight simulator, they come away with it going, oh, I get what you were trying to teach me there. I thought I was having fun, but actually you taught me something. And I think, this
Why
has
are
become
those different?
really cool. Right. I actually, I also taught my clients to surf one day, and one of them had literally only ever been in the water in military training, so he'd never seen the ocean as fun. But he got on a wave and off he went, and he kind of went, not in a million years did I think I could do that. And so he said, but I did it. And then when he has to face a really difficult issue in work, I can say, dude, you surfed a wave. You can handle this. It's it's just about bringing your ideas to life however you can. And so speaking engagements for me really are, what experience can I bring to people? What can I use to help people embed this learning in their bodies somehow?
Experiences, they're the one you never forget.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those are the things that you remember, and you transport back to those emotions.
Yeah.
As soon as they're called from whatever triggers it, which is so powerful for building relationship. It's good in any type of relationship, and in this business context, leadership and understanding concepts of how to work together. And I love the creativity. I'm so curious. What are you like? Were you always this creative? Is this something you practice, and how do you approach it?
I guess I always thought of myself as creative. Being a photographer and a film director, I had to be professionally creative, which is a whole different thing.
Can you unpack professionally creative for a second?
Right, sure. When you are, so for example, I would be a director of television commercials, right? Now, if you're doing a bank commercial or a car commercial or whatever you're doing, you've got a really big crew, and it costs quite a lot of money to shoot these things. And there's a lot riding on it. So you need to really think outside the box, but at the very same time, you need to bring everyone on that set along for the ride. So being professionally creative is about what I always used to tell people was being creative is just problem solving at speed. So if you come on a set and the script calls for a bright sunny day and it's not bright and sunny, you need to solve that really quick, because you can't just wait around for a sunny day with a crew of 20 and a cast of 30. That's too much money to spend. So, okay, how are we going to do this, guys? Who's going to do that? Where, if we shoot it over here instead of there, you just need to solve problems at speed. And one of the things I think salespeople do really well is solve problems at speed. I think you're all more creative than you think you are, because people think of creativity as, I can paint or I can draw or I can sing or I can act. But actually, creativity is really just, here's a hurdle, how do I get around it in the best possible way? And so being professionally creative is practicing that problem solving and developing your skills so that when they happen, you're ready for it. Not unlike a sports person training for a game, I think being professionally creative is about learning how to do things, like how to make up a talk on the spot, or how to tell a story that impacts your people, or how to talk about a case study of a client so that your prospective client sees themselves in that case study. And so it's like rehearsing with a band. You don't just get on stage and plug in and go. You practice for that. So it's a little bit of discipline, but once you've kind of got comfortable with all of that, then what you do is you just let go. You get on stage and you let go. So once you've practiced with your band and you do get on stage, now you can take it to another level. And what that looks like for salespeople, I think, is exactly what we've been talking about, is to say, well, how can I explain this to someone really, really well? Let's do a band. Let's teach them to surf. Let's put them in a flight simulator. And my experience is that leaning into what seems mildly insane or at best a little bit risky, that's, I think, what us salespeople do really well. We go, here's a good idea, let me just lean into it and see how far I can take it. And so that's being professionally creative as well, taking a risk. Because as you said, in terms of the spoken word and speaking engagements and things like that, I think you can do a lot of damage to your career and your business and your, the products and services that you sell if you get up there and do a 7-point PowerPoint presentation. I think people just say, I'm not interested in working with someone who presents like that. And the opposite is certainly true.
Yeah, I totally agree. Let's go down that path for just a second. Maybe the top three things like don't do's. Like what if you're on a when you're on a podcast, when you're on any type of interview, when you're on stage, here are top three, don't touch these. What would you say?
Yeah. I would actually say, I'm going to flip it a little bit. The top thing to do is tell stories.
Okay.
Right? Absolutely the top thing. And I'm betting everyone has sat in a presentation where a top level CEO or some big name has got up there and just talked about data. Just here's what you need to know. Bullet point. That doesn't move anyone. What you want to talk about is what your experience was. This is why I tell you about the day I got the phone call from the bank, because I think as salespeople, we all want that call. That we can see what that's like, and we can, as compared to that Oliver Twist, please, sir, can I have more? Please let me tell you about my stuff. So number one is tell stories. Yes. The second thing is this. It's not enough to know your stuff. You have to perform it. Now I learned that. Right, yeah. I learned that in music, in bands. I play rock bands and we play, covers and all that sort of stuff. Now, I'm an okay guitarist, but people love watching my band play because we have a lot of fun. We have a lot of, we're good, but we are really engaged with the audience. And so when I do a solo, I'll jump off the stage. I'll walk over the tables in the restaurant and do a guitar solo standing on the table. People won't notice that I miss a few notes. They won't notice that I'm just a half a beat behind because they're so engaged in the performance. Because the opposite is someone standing up on stage, totally internally focused, playing a perfect solo, and it's boring as heck. And to me, that's the difference between playing the notes and performing the notes. And I think that's why I do experiences on stage. That's why I tell stories. I learned to sing so that I could learn to control my vocal. Because that's really important. They're probably the only two things you need to know is tell stories and perform, don't present.
Oh my gosh, perform, don't present. I hope people are catching all the value that you're giving and you're sharing with us. And my goodness, rock star, surfer, checking all the boxes, jumping on tables is so. Here's another huge takeaway. Do not be boring. And I'll say it this way for all business owners, sales, marketing professionals, for us. Hopefully this is giving us permission or affirming us that it is okay to have fun and be creative in our businesses. I like to describe the entrepreneur as a business artist. You're solving problems, and when you can connect with people in a creative way and have and share experiences, number one, you're having more fun, we're having more fun, but so is the customer. And it just so happens that while that's going on, the line is growing out the door around the corner because the fun and the intensity and the life is kicking in. You can tell I like a little bit of creativity in my life, keeps things fresh. So I really appreciate what you're saying, and I hope most people are, everyone is catching this.
And I guess the little twist to that is, like I do music and I do all that sort of stuff, and my wife says I've got a biggish personality. But it doesn't mean that you have to be that way in order to lean into your level of creativity. Right. It comes in all forms. And I guess the thing that I've learned is the more I just be me, the more I be professionally creative about being who I am, whatever that looks like, the better my business goes. It's as simple as that. And so you might be thinking, there's no way I want to get up on stage in front of lots of people, but I kind of like connecting with people in this way. Well, that's okay. That's your particular version of creativity. So it's not a one size fits all. It's actually a lean into your own version of doing this, and you'll attract the right people for you.
So it's so powerful. Being yourself. And I think, stage is a great word to hang on for a minute, because your stage might be leading the weekly team meeting.
Yeah.
Your stage might be leading the entire team. In different settings. It might be managing a team, or it might be presenting for your department to the board of directors, or whatever. There's plenty of different stages. Being able to perform it, and your role as a performer, as an actor, might be to not be outlandish, but it might be to be professional. And so what does that role look like? How do you dress? How do you talk? And thinking through it for that lens, I think, is really powerful and really fun. Hey, this has been a really fun conversation. Brett, you clearly know what you're talking about. You clearly have spoken, had some great experiences in life. For all the people that are leaning in, where's the best place to find some more Brett?
Certainly find me on Facebook. That's somewhere that you can find me. We've got a couple of links here in the notes, and I'll jump in after the live and answer some questions. If you connect with me via Facebook Messenger, I've got for people that are actually interested in doing a book, I've got a link for them. We've also got a free 5 steps to writing your book link for you for everyone here.
Let's hang there for just a second. Just so you're mentioning, this is one of them that you'll see. We'll just go there. Write in public. So we're talking about spoken word and creativity, and how to leverage this as a tool to increase conversion, decrease ad spend. This is a real and going through this. I'll say, as someone that just went through this process a couple of months ago, the thoughts and the clarity, when I started putting this stuff down, I was like, number one, I was like, I have so many more stories than I even thought I had.
Yeah.
And then my next immediate thought was, they are so messy.
Yeah.
By putting them on paper and going through the exercise alone was worth it itself, because even if I never even mention the book, that I got to be a part of, which is $1 Million Dads. But even if no one hears about that or sees it, or I never use it, obviously I will. Everyone watching, you will too. But even if that exercise alone was so powerful, because as I'm doing conversations and interviews like this, as I'm doing other trainings, as I'm on calls, having the clarity of story and knowing how to tell it better, it got me so excited. I was like, I need to do this process more. It's so powerful either way. Sorry, that was my little plug.
No, that's great. I'm going to draw a little picture for you. I'm going to switch over to my iPad, and if this little circle here, hang on, let me just get that in the center of frame there,
there we go.
There we go. Yeah, there we go. I call this spaghetti head. What you described was you've got all these ideas, right, and they're bouncing around there. Now, actually, we are actually better than most people, because we're accustomed to trying to sell stuff. So what I prefer to think of is that our job is to go from spaghetti head over to bullseye. Now, that's a really messy little diagram there, but writing a book is... Yeah, right. Writing a book is all about getting that down into this bullseye, like going from spaghetti head to razor sharp like a bullseye. And one of the things that, thanks for that, that was really good. So one of the things that I initially sort of worked out was, how do we take these ideas, download them out of our heads in a way that works for our brain, that works with the way our brain thinks. Because we like stories, we like hearing that performance, but when we put them in a particular structure, when we start to think about what we're writing about from the perspective of our clients, now it becomes much more persuasive. So the very first thing I do with people is download their ideas into this structure. And once they see it in this model and they see it go from spaghetti head to bullseye, it's like they sit back and they go, oh, I do know stuff, don't I? I know stuff that's valuable. And that's incredibly rewarding to see people realize that they have genius, realize that that genius can be used in a book.
It's so true. And it rings even more true for me now because going through it, I was like, oh, see, I thought one thing.
As soon as I draw spaghetti head, you go, yeah, that's exactly what it was like.
It was humbling, but it was also fun at the same time because it was like, oh no, like, but I can just do this, and then what's the product, the bullseye result, kind of to follow the same framework is like, oh, I can use this, and it like feels better, and it's like easier, more natural to just share the story, and people, you're less skittish. I felt
and more confident in that and that's a creative process. You've just experienced a creative process, which I say is a bit like having a baby. It's there's a lot of pain involved, but the thing that comes out the other end is something you'll love forever.
And fortunately, if someone wants to write a book, it doesn't take 9 months. It can be cut down to 4 hours.
So here's the big insight. This is how this happened, right? I thought I developed a book writing program because all of my friends went, how do you write a book? And I would spend an hour or two with them and say that we do this, basically gave them a to-do list. And nobody ever did anything. Like 6 months later, I'd say, how's it going? And they'd say, oh, I haven't started or I haven't done this. And I thought, the big hurdle for people in writing a book is not that they don't have great ideas or not that they don't want to do it. They just don't have a structure or it doesn't fit for them. As in they're not going to be that character that sits in a cottage in rural Spain writing on the typewriter, but they're all really good at talking. So I thought, okay, what's the hurdle? How do I get more people to write more books? Because my vision is that I think books are leadership books, and I want a tsunami of leadership coming through the world, sharing great ideas and connecting to people. So how do I do that? So I've developed this system, which I call the 4-Hour Author, where basically we use our frameworks and I interview people. And we interview them around those frameworks so that there's structure, there's story, and we have editors who edit it and designers who design the covers and basically do it all for them. All you have to do is talk to me for about 2 hours, and we've got enough content for a really great book.
Isn't that crazy?
It's crazy, right? It's like, what's the big objection which stops people writing a book? What could I do that overcomes that objection? And so I started down this track, a few years ago, and I couldn't have imagined how big this has got. I now work with clients in 10 countries. I just started working with someone in Trinidad and Tobago, which not in a million years did I think I'd be working with someone in Trinidad and Tobago. And it's global and it's phenomenal, and it's creating books on all sorts of topics at a really rapid rate. So it's kind of, it's really going towards that tsunami of leadership. And the really cool thing is everyone can build their business around these books. So that's kind of the story of the 4-Hour Author.
You've clearly spent time becoming and continuing to grow as an author, as a speaker. You're an insanely creative person. You keep things fun and engaging. It's how you approach business, you approach life. It's cool that those are the same thing. And you've clearly spent some time solving the problem of how do we actually help other people put their ideas on paper, which are non-negotiably very powerful. And leading with value. Anyone that is spotlighted here in Sales Center's inner circle, it's value is huge. Value is huge, and so we want to bring the best people to you. We want to bring great content to you and useful tools. Here is a free. Thank you for this free, very useful tool. This is a link will be in the description. It shouldn't be there yet, but it'll be added, right? Because
Yeah.
this is the link. You can see it. How to write a no BS book writing game plan course. It's a free course that he's put together. These thoughts, spaghetti brain to bullseye. That's the outcome. This is where you want to start. Thank you for the free gift. This is helpful for people to get started. It's a here's something else I can say about it. Obviously, I feel like I'm like also selling this idea with you because it was a really big personal experience for me, and I can make this guarantee and this promise. If no matter how far, even if you started, I don't recommend you start and get halfway through and not finish. But I'm saying even if you did, you will absolutely not regret it. This is a direction. This is a way of spending time. Cut out Netflix for a week. I know a lot of entrepreneurs still don't even watch it. I get it. We have 0 TVs in our house. I'm trying another little experiment. We took all TVs down. Not that we spent a ton of time doing it anyway, but it is also still reduced screen time. The point is this: if you find the time, you make the time, you allocate any amount of it in this direction, I promise you won't regret it. It is such to get into creating. Is a really powerful way to spend life and share with others. So thank you for this.
And and very specifically, that is the 5 primary steps that you need to go through to go from spaghetti head to bullseye. So I go into that in quite a bit of depth there. There's some live coaching on there that's been recorded. So you've actually got real people saying, oh, how does this work? And you've got the workbooks and the frameworks. So we've got, how do you get those crazy ideas into a format? Then how do you tell stories with it? And then actually go into how do you create a product ecosystem around that as well. So, I get a lot of really great feedback about that particular course, and I've spoken to 4 people this week who have taken the free course and have actually managed to go right through the process of writing their book and publishing it. And not everyone, like a lot of people would come to me and say, hey, if I can just talk to you and you do all the rest of it, I'd love that. There's certainly, that's what the 4-hour author's for, but a lot of people are getting a lot of value out of that 5 steps or that no BS writing, book writing course.
Thank you again so much for that, Brett. As we kind of move into our last question for today, and everyone watching, hang out with us, fellow sales centers, thank you. Thank you for hanging out with us today. Moving into the final question is, this all is a lot of work. There's a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of emotions. You mentioned you have kids, time spent away from family. I always love to end each conversation with the why, with the driver, what's kind of the legacy thought, the impact thought that really helps those darker, harder moments where you're like, sometimes none of it makes any sense. And you're like, I'm going to keep pushing anyway. It fascinates me what drives people. And the question is, what drives you?
There's a slightly complex answer, so I'll try and keep it as simple as I can. I love helping people. I absolutely love it. That's just how I'm built. That's just who I am. And so when I can see someone's eyes light up with this kind of, oh my gosh, I'm an author, or, I've got something valuable to share with the world, or even not only have I got something valuable, but I can build that into a business. I can have the life I want. That's incredibly rewarding in itself. And that happens every single day. For me personally, my kids are my youngest is just about to leave school, and I want to build a business that I can work with anyone, anywhere in the world, that I can do it from anywhere in the world, so I can be on a laptop, and that I kind of lean into the things that light me up, which is the creativity and helping people and all that sort of stuff. So the way I'm doing it is really exciting because, I've got clients in 10 countries. As soon as the pandemic dies down and my youngest has left school, my plan is to go and spend 6 months in Italy and with my wife and, work from there. And then when I get sick of that, go to my beloved Liverpool FC and follow them a little bit, or, basically work anywhere in the world from a laptop, help lots of people doing work I love and am inspired by. And my what I really want is never to retire. If I could do that, if I can do that, 2-3 days a week, earn really good money and help people and do exciting creative things, then why the hell would you want to retire from that? That's just good fun.
That's such a fun framework. Most of us are thinking about what do we need to do and able to retire. If you're not feeling and thinking, I never want to retire from this, it might be a good idea to think about what you're doing currently a little bit more. Brett, really appreciate your insight today, the massive value, the tools, the resources, the experiences, the tactics and strategies that you shared today. I really enjoyed this conversation. This is one of my favorites.
Me too.
Sales Ascenders, thank you for listening. We will be back next week with more amazing talent in this group. This is the content you want to consume, you want to listen to. We'll always bring the best for you and introduce you to more amazing business owners. Just remember, Entrepreneur Island is a thing, right? It can get really lonely, but it doesn't have to be lonely. Let's connect together. Enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll talk again soon.
Thanks for having me.